Alright, welcome to another informational Brighter Shores video. Today we're going to be going over some different aspects of combat and just talking about a few different things. Namely, I think there's 4 questions I want to try to answer. I don't have fantastic answers for all of them, but I have at least some kind of data to look at for it. But the 4 things we're trying to look at is what's the hit distribution. So, you know, if you have a minimum, maximum hit, what should you expect to hit between that? Do weapons take attack speed into account? So namely, if you have multiple weapons where one's slow, like this Warhammer here, and it's got 77 strength, and you got this stone mace here that also has 77 strength, should you be expecting them to do the same damage even though the stone mace attacks much quicker? That's one of the questions. The how much does elemental weakness help? The other one. So when you have this value on here, which is basically this is your percent. Yeah, well, there's the mouse over. 75% chance of doing the Tempest damage. And what does that actually mean for you? So if that does activate, what does that do for you? Especially if a monster's weak to it. You know, you're attacking something that's how much more damage will you do because of that? Last question is what does the armor deflect do for you? So you'll notice too a little bit as you level up, you get a base amount of deflect and max health, but obviously armor adds to that. And it's also, I'm gonna demonstrate this right now, I guess, so you can see this, but this value does go up multiplicatively rather than additively, meaning right now you'll notice when I add the hands armor on here, what is this? The gloves. This is at 13.57% for the necro damage, and if I take it off it goes down to 12.58%, so it gives about 0.99% extra on here. Right, and then, but if I add everything else up, now it's at 23.6, and if it was going to add 0.99% again, you would expect that to go up to 24.05, but it doesn't go up quite that high. It goes 23.92, which is like 86.86%, right? So the idea is they basically always give you the same value. But we'll look at the numbers at that a little bit more. I'm gonna cut for just a second and come back, and we'll look at some more data in Google Sheets here. All right, so here we're gonna look at. I'm not gonna go into this part super in depth as I don't have enough data to say definitively on this, but this is what the hit distribution looks like. Based on your minimum and maximum hit. So you will hit between 0 and your maximum, and it looks like the damage that you're going to hit looks something like a bell curve. I can't tell if it's a bell curve or more of a, like I don't know what the word for this would be, but it's like a straight climb up to the peak and then like a pyramid. I don't know, it's a triangle. I can't tell if it is, but I think it's something more like a bell curve, because you'll notice, especially when you're hitting really high, it's very rare to hit very low or very high on the list, which obviously that would still be the case for the triangle. But the point is, when you hit, you're gonna expect to hit mostly around the middle of your max hit, which means your hit will be a lot more consistent than it would be in, say, RuneScape, where you hit any number between 0 and your max, or 1 and your max now, I guess. But this you should expect much more consistent hits. So hopefully, if you are attacking something that you are clearly better than, it should be easier to generally edge it out rather than get unlucky and hit a bunch of 0s or 1s, because you'll tend towards the middle there. And again, this is not a huge sample size, because this is literally me watching the fight and writing down each hit. And the more numbers you add, the more accurate this is going to be. But I have not decided to spend time watching thousands of hits to gather that data yet. So we'll see if we have more information on that in the future. Do weapons take attack speed into account? Short answer, yes. if you have two weapons that both have 75 strength or whatever, like if it's the same, you should be expecting about the same damage output. A quicker weapon will have a lower max hit and a lower, average hit at that point. And that's all I have to say about that. we don't need to dwell on that for too long, because again, I don't have hard numbers for a lot of this, because it involves manually tracking numbers right now, until I have a better way to aggregate that data. How much does elemental weakness help? This is another one that takes into account hits, and I don't have the best data on, but it seems like it just increases your hit by anywhere between 25 to 50%. And I wish I had better numbers written out for this, but that's also a thing where I'm not going to linger on for too long, because I don't know this for sure, but from my testing, it looks like it does give you at least a benefit of like 25%, maybe closer to 50, and I would edge towards it's probably a little bit closer to 50%. So having those bonuses definitely are helpful, but that means, for instance, if you saw my weapon that has like a 75% chance to infuse that element, that means you multiply that 75% by the 50% bonus damage, and you get like an average DPS increase of 37.5%, which is pretty substantial. Like it's a pretty big deal to attack with your attack somebody with their weakness. Yeah, and again, I won't go too much deeper into that because I don't have a lot of hard data on that, and hopefully we'll get that more later. The last thing, which I do actually have really good data on, is what does the armor deflect do for you? So I have some like calculations I've written up here just to test all this stuff out to make sure, but it seems like different armor pieces affect your deflect point differently. And I'll say this first: the deflect, I'm 99% sure is just a flat damage reduction. You can test this out, I feel like, pretty easily with the level 0 guards. When they punch you, they only hit you like 11, and then you put on 15% of armor, and now their max hit's only 9. And I can't definitively say that's their max hit, again, because there's nothing defining that, but you can say, I've seen them hit their max hit like 5 times without hitting any higher. That's generally what I'll do if I'm trying to determine like that's all the higher they're going to hit. And so it does seem like it's just a flat damage reduction. So taking that into account, the different armor pieces that you get, the torso, head, hands, shield, legs, boots, the values that they show on their I don't know what the heck you call it, their resistance, right? You'll see all those values pop up for the different elements. They're worth different amounts. So like the torso is way above the rest of them, and that each point, this is damage reduction per 100 points, which I kind of have over here. Just to make it a little bit easier. Otherwise, you're looking at 0.068% per point, and that's a little bit weird. But you can calculate how much damage reduction a chest piece is going to give you for a certain attack style, because you can look at this, and this one's real simple, so we'll look at this. If you have 50 points of protection against the arbitrary damage, right, you're going to get half of this, so you're going to get 3.4% damage reduction against that style. And that's how it's calculated. And then again, the fact that they're stacked multiplicatively means it's always going to give you 3.4% damage reduction of however much you're left to hit. Meaning, let's look at it like this. I have this little calculator here. So let's say you have no armor on. You'll get a base reduction because of your level. I'm not positive how that one's calculated. It's something like it's 0.5% per level, and which also stacks multiplicatively. but that's not super accurate. So don't don't quote me on that. Whatever the base reduction is, right? You can even look at. I'm gonna add enough so I have about 10% here. You would expect, if you have 10% reduction from your chest and you have 10% base reduction, that would add up to about 20%. But realistically, they stack multiplicatively, and that's more like 19. That's not a big difference when the numbers are small, but when you get up to, I have 50%, it's not like I have 50% reduction and then now I have, 50% reduction with this, and now I'm at 100% reduction. That's not how that would work. So let's do this real quick. Go like that. So you have a 50% base reduction, 50% armor reduction. That's going to stack up to 75% total reduction. And that's how that works, that multiplicative. So, your base reduction takes off half, and then your armor is going to take off half of what's left, right? And that's how that calculation is made for those numbers on there. But yeah, so this is a thing that you can calculate. The chest piece gives you the best at 6.8% per 100 points in your stats. Shield is 4.5, head and legs are 3.4, and hands are 2.3. And this seems pretty definitive. I've tried this calculation also with different base resistances, but the amount of boost they're giving is pretty consistent whether it's higher or lower, and it comes out to about 0.68% for chest and 0.34 for head. That seems very, very clear. So I'm happy with that. Like it's ever so slightly off, but the scaling is consistent enough that you can just assume it to be that value. I wanted to jump in here and add one more thing really quick. Armor does look like it gives you some kind of benefit, even if it's off episode. And it seems like it's something like a third. This is much less definitive. I tried to do some calculations down here, and the values varied wildly. So I'm really not sure. Cause yeah. Anyways, I'm not sure exactly what this looks like, but it does seem like wearing, if you have nothing to wear for an episode, and you just take something from a different episode, it seems like that does give you some kind of value. But again, not sure how much. But yeah. And so I hope that helps. I mostly want to point out the armor part because it is helpful to you, and even to the point where maybe you want to plan on, like, I'm heading up into a higher combat bracket and I'm going to be attacking a specific type of enemy that attacks with, the infernal damage type. So I'm going to be looking out for pieces that are specifically going to give me more infernal damage reduction. And I'm going to stack that because it is actually going to give you some damage reduction, and it's going to, help you survive. And then also, looking out for weapons. I wish I knew better on the scaling for the how weapon damage is calculated. That's still very unclear to me, and is going to require a lot of manual data gathering before I figure that out. But again, attacking with people's weaknesses, and then also making sure you are strong against what they're attacking with, is actually going to benefit you a bit, and more and more so the higher level that you get, realistically. But yeah, that's all I got for now. We'll cut this off before I keep rambling. But thanks for watching. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to cover or look into. These are the main things that I've wanted to look into for myself as far as data goes, so we'll see if I figure out anything else that would be interesting. But let me know. Thanks for watching.